Welcome back, everyone, to Retroactive, your place for all things fandom. My name's Andrew, of course. Joining me, pretty much as always, we have my buddy Brandon. How's it going, bud?
Good. How you guys doing tonight?
Eh, Trying to fight a bug, but it is what it is.
I thought I heard something different in your voice. I was like, dang, man, that testosterone.
Oh yes, that's what it is. Now, whenever I get
But,
sick, my tone goes down at least like a half octave or something like that.
yeah.
It's
Well, I
really
hope you
weird.
feel better, and I hope this doesn't screw up your voice anymore.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And of course, we have my wife, Ashlyn. Hi, babe.
Hi, guys.
Now we got a ton of stuff to talk about because this last week or so has been just tons of trailers, a lot of information coming out, a lot of new stuff coming out. We're going to try and talk about just about everything here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick it off with a little bit of Star Wars stuff. Now we had the first trailer for the Acolyte drop last week. Now this is a new series that's going to be on Disney Plus that is set in the High Republic era. For those of you that don't know, that is set prior to the Skywalker saga. I believe this is about 200 years, give or take, prior to those events. So we're in a completely different time period. We've got a whole new set of characters, obviously. Yoda's around there somewhere. I don't know if he's going to pop up in the in the show or not, but he's always kicking around somewhere. But the trailer overall is amazing in my opinion. Like obviously as a massive Star Wars fan, there's a lot to love with this, but I think there's a lot for people that maybe have been a little standoffish with some things with Star Wars, whether it be because they're tired of the same old, or they're tired of the Skywalkers and everything connected to that. But before I get too much into it, I'm going to jump it over to Brandon, see what he's saying. What are your thoughts on this trailer, bud?
This is the first time in a while I've looked at something Star Wars related and really have been excited and don't have a lot of reservations. Because this to me is Disney's point to really craft something in their own era and really do it well. So for me with Disney, this is kind of their make or break. I say that with the exception of the sequels, of course, that's kind of Disney crafting their own timeline, so to speak, but it's often an existing
Right, it's a continuation of what came before,
characters and side characters and blah blah blah. But when you're going back as far as they're going, they can create whatever they want. They can make it whatever they want. So in one hand, I feel like they have a lot of power there, and a lot of room to mess up and really piss off the fan. But
sorry,
it's true though. I mean, but at the same time, being that they are, they have a lot of creative minds over at Disney, and I feel like they could do it justice if they just stick to what fan service wants and demands, as opposed to what might be politically correct. And I think that if you find it, even a medium ground, it'll go over well. But overall, as long as they listen to what the fans want and they're doing source material diving off of like the novels of the High Republic, I think that they have a really good chance at making this something really special for the franchise. I was really excited to see Carrie-Anne Moss in there. I had no idea Trinity was going to be in Star Wars, so that was a huge shock to me. And same thing with the dude from Squid Game. I didn't know he was in there till I didn't even recognize him until I saw it was the little what do you call it? The little actor portfolio thing.
Oh
with
yeah,
all their headshots, and I was like, that dude's from Squid Game. What the hell? So, yeah, it is really cool to see some familiar actors that are filling these roles. And I feel like it's gonna really shine a light on them. And some of the newer actors as well. It's definitely going to shine a light on them. But I'm hoping to see some good storytelling throughout all of this, and really give me some good lightsaber battles, man, that aren't cheesy. I want to see some good action. I want to see some good storytelling, and I feel like that's the direction this is going. So I'm pretty excited overall for it.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I understand what you're saying with the interesting thing about this, as far as like when people use the term fan service, is that with this in particular, it's I don't know. It's I like I said, I kind of get what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like there's nothing that we're pulling from unless you're somebody that reads the novels for the High
Exactly.
Republic.
Yeah.
So the fan service in this regard would be kind of to what you were also saying about having good lightsaber battles,
Hmm.
good dialogue, good back and forth between like the good and the bad characters, and or whatever the case may be, type of thing. But that's the interesting thing with this is because for the general audience, they're completely starting from scratch.
Yeah.
There is, yes, there's a lot of room for them to mess up, but at the same time, I would argue that it's a lot easier for them to build from the ground up than what they may have done with the sequels of building what came before.
Hmm.
So, like I said, it's a dangerous road to do something new. But I think even whether you're talking Star Wars fans or the general public, I think we've been clamoring for something new and something different and something that hasn't been told in the Star Wars universe
Hmm.
as of yet. I haven't actually dove into the High Republic novels as of yet. I probably will before this comes out if I can. I mean, there's quite a few books that they've already released, and they're still releasing more. It's a very like dense amount of time that they're trying to cover. And the interesting thing with this is that this is an era of Star Wars that has never been explored prior, or never really even really talked about prior to Disney and Lucasfilm creating these novels and comics and now a series. What came before was like the old Republic, and we have
Yeah.
the video games and the stories that came with that are now considered legends, but we keep getting little tidbits here and there that kind of like pull things back into canon. And I'm hoping that someday we get a little bit more with that. But as opposed to the Old Republic, where if they were doing an Old Republic series, people would be so many more people would be comparing that to the games,
Sure.
to the books and everything that came before. So I think they did a really smart idea with creating this new time period essentially. Like I said, I'm still fingers crossed that we do end up getting whether it's movies or a series with the Old Republic, and that they do with that one stick a little bit more to what came before with the source material. But I'm overall excited. Ashlyn, what are your thoughts on this trailer? Do you have any expectations, any hopes for this series that's set in a completely different time period?
Well, to speak on your homework, as you said with your novels, you've got
Hmm.
7 that I can see from here. So,
Yeah. Oh, it's more than that. That's
oh,
yeah.
those are the ones that I immediately looked over and I was like, oh, yeah, those
Hmm.
are all the High Republic ones.
Yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
about, I think of what I currently have, there's at least 14 novels.
Oh, yeah. I see the other ones now. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely going to be interesting going to a different time. I think the only thing that they've done so far with High Republic, I think, is the Young Jedi Adventures is in the High Republic, or is it?
Team Nubs all day.
Yes. So
But yes, as
this,
far as anything that's series or that's not a, something you read, I
yeah,
think the only thing they've done is that. And there's arguments of whether or not that is technically canon, but it's pretty much everything they release is canon more or less. It's just
yeah.
not really going to be touched on, I don't think.
Yeah, obviously they're not going to cross, the Acolyte time period with what they're
Well,
doing
and
right
also
now with
this,
that.
I think that is actually prior to the events of the Acolyte.
That would
I
make
don't
sense.
100% sure. It could be there maybe like 250 years ago or 300 years ago, because even the High Republic jumps around in time within the novels that they've released. That is like some of them are like 200, some of them are 300 years ago. It
Yeah.
really just depends. So I'm not 100% sure on that.
But yeah, it definitely looks interesting. It's something new. I was also surprised when I saw Carrie Ann Moss. I think she's going to be excellent in it. I think she's going to do a really good job. Um,
I'm gonna be so
so
pissed if she gets killed like early on.
Yeah, me
But
too.
by this like Sith character or whatever. I hope
yeah,
that if like let's say if they open it up like first episode and that whole situation plays out, that it maybe like backtracks and we get some like flashbacks with her to kind of tell her story. Cause like I feel like I got like some like I haven't really watched the series, but I've seen little tidbits. I'm getting some like True Detective vibes with this mixed with Star Wars because they're like trying to figure out what's going on, and because people the Jedi are dying left and right apparently, and this is like a time period where this just doesn't happen. And so there's some some mystery involved in this. But I apologize.
Yeah.
Continue.
No, that's great input. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. Hopefully get another sort of teaser, and then I think I'll be good, because obviously we don't want to know the whole story or anything and have anything spoiled for us. So it's very interesting to see where it all goes and everything like that. So
Absolutely. And one of the things I'm really excited to see is a Jedi Wookiee in live action.
Yeah,
That's
me
going to
too.
be pretty awesome
Me too.
with Jonas. I never know how to
Is
pronounce
he-
his
it's
name.
Jonas.
He's playing the Wookiee.
He's playing the Wookiee. Yeah,
That's
pretty
cool.
much now. Whenever they need a Wookiee, they get him. You know, like
What
I
you're
mean,
saying is they can't go to Kashyyyk anymore because they only have one of him.
they'll find a way. But
Yeah.
no, it's an exaggeration, but it is true. When they announced this series and they had like the cast come out on stage, I think it was D23 or something like that. They had him and they announced that he was going to play a Wookiee Jedi,
Very cool.
and we've only ever seen that in animated form with Gungi from the Clone Wars, and then popping up in Bad Batch. So getting to see that in a live action, a full grown like adult one at that, being Jedi, is something that's, I hope, is like really well done.
Absolutely.
That's something I've wanted to see for quite a long time, especially since watching the Clone Wars when I didn't even know that was a thing prior. So I don't know. There's a lot, a lot of mystery behind this series. Obviously, a lot to, I'm sure, unpack when the series comes out. We'll talk more about it once that series hits. Next thing we're going to jump over to is the new Alien Romulus trailer. Now, I myself am not really an Alien fan overall. I'd say mostly because I'm not a huge horror person. I do remember watching like bits and pieces of them, watching like Alien versus Predator, which is obviously a very different thing. And watching this trailer though, getting some like going back to our roots vibe though, with the original, like trying to go back for that space horror, like secluded, dark, kind of gritty vibe to it is what I'm getting. And from the director of oh man, I Don't Breathe. That's what it was. I would pretty much expect nothing less. He's kind of like a more grounded director. So for him to take a step into sci-fi, and especially something with Alien, I think it's going to be as well as grounded as you can be with a movie like this. I think it's going to be a little bit more back to basics. But Ashlyn, what did you think of this particular trailer?
Again, I can't tell you the last time I saw Alien. I know I saw the original and AVP, like, I don't know, 100 years ago, but it's been
Are
quite
you
a
Team
long
Alien
time.
or Team Predator? That's the question.
Why is Brandon giving me like the hard stare?
I'm not trying to. No. I have a side
Um,
screen. I was looking at something.
I
Sorry.
was like, I felt like I was getting the eyeball, like, you better answer this.
I can.
right?
Let's just
don't
stare her
know.
down until she answers the question.
I
Answer it.
don't know. Gosh, they're not my movies. I don't know.
Just pick one. I don't know.
I don't know. Alien.
Okay. Because it's a queen, of course, but please,
But
you were saying.
the look of it and everything, definitely from the minute the trailer started, gave me, reminiscent of the original one from Ridley Scott, because he's producing this one as well. I believe I saw on the credits.
He pretty
So,
much produces almost every Alien movie,
Alien
more or
movie.
less.
Yeah. So definitely gave me those vibes from the original, with Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. So definitely looks like they're, like you said, kind of going back to basics. I'm sure I'll eventually see this movie. I don't know that's what I'm going to go clamor to go out for, but I'm sure I'll see it and torture myself through all the jump scares that are going to happen. So,
Brandon, what did you think of this? Are you like an Alien fan at all?
No, not really. And like Ashlyn said, it's not going to be one I go after like super hardcore. I probably will not see it in the theaters. but I'll say, you know, that it's been a long time since we've seen a good one, a good Alien movie. I've seen you know, the classic ones. I can't tell you much about them. I don't remember them. You know, it's that ought to tell you where I stand, you know, on the whole franchise. It's a cool concept. I dig it. And I like the games. I played some of the games back in the day. And I played Isolation when that came out, and I really enjoyed that. But just like the whole concept of the movies and this, that, the other, like it's a lot of people's big thing, big franchise. It's not mine.
Yeah.
And I doubt it ever will be. I am a horror fan, though. I do like classic horror, and I love continuation of classic horror to an extent. Some of them get cheesy, but I think you know, also going off of what Ashlyn said, I think that you know, it did give me vibes of like the originals with Ripley. And you know, I don't know if this character has any sort of tie-ins to the originals or what the story is really too much, but it did look, you know, reminiscent of the old film sets and such. And so it, to that credit, it looks like they're doing it justice. But aside from that, I can't really comment too much. Other than I just hope that the fans enjoy what they put out.
Yeah. How dare you, sir, by the way, saying that
What?
that horror gets cheesy. Jason X is a classic.
Yeah,
sir.
boy. All right. That used to be one of my favorite Friday the 13th, by the way. Till I grew up past age 10. So
no, I've never been a horror person at all. To be honest,
Jason X was hilarious.
Yeah,
Still is. So stupid.
I was hoping. Unfortunately, Josh wasn't able to make it last minute. I was kind of hoping he would be here for this because I think this is more his thing. He's definitely like a Alien and Predator fan and everything like that. So I'm sure he definitely has his thoughts. Maybe next time I'll get his thoughts on this one. But I think we've talked enough about this. I think we're all kind of like,
we
maybe
don't know enough about.
Yeah. Let's move on to Beetlejuice.
Oh, here we go. All right.
I won't dare say it a third time as of just yet. They dropped this trailer, and well, more of a teaser, just like the last one. We only got about 60 seconds or so of footage. So since I'm being asked to put you in, Coach, let's do this. Brandon, go ahead.
I fucking love this movie. Like, I mean, not obviously not the sequel. I love the first one. And recently, on our honeymoon, actually, we're going up to New York on the flight. I was I was actually watching it. I'm just like, it's a classic, and you know, we got to meet Alec Baldwin that weekend, so I was kind of prepping myself. I was like, oh, it's on the flight, might as well. She's watching Barbie. I'm gonna watch Beetlejuice.
We do that too before cons and stuff like that. We're like watching the movies of the people we're gonna see.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's it's just one of those cult classics, and I'll say this sequel should have been made years ago.
100%.
Michael Keaton's even said this is, you know, it's almost too late.
Right.
I hope that they do end up doing a third one so that they can continue the phrase, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So, but and to that credit, I'll say, obviously they had to go with that title. Why would you not? You know, I saw some fan theories online that were like saying that it was going to be called, you know, this, that, the other. I'm just like, please don't, just call it Beetlejuice, and perfect. And I saw the trailer, I was like, it's perfect. But I will say, when I saw the trailer, you know, jaw dropping to me. I thought it was fantastic. Winona Ryder looks like perfect in it. I'm like, that is exactly like their aesthetic. Michael Keaton, you know, I'm like, I don't know how they're going to they're going to, you know, I knew they weren't going to DH him. I think that's a terrible idea. On the other hand, I want to know how they're going to continue with this, knowing that Beetlejuice is aged, but like, he's not supposed to age. He's dead. Like, you know,
maybe they'll go with like he's rot, like his body.
Yeah, like decomposing type of thing.
So,
you know, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
I mean, look at this image. Like that looks more like he's just getting more rotten as the years go. You know what I mean?
Maybe, you know, and I think based off of what, you know, just that one line you heard in the trailer, I'm like, oh, he's back. The juice is loose. I'm like, that's beautiful.
Beautiful.
So I adore this movie, and I think that it's very well deserving of a sequel. I only hope that just too much time hasn't gone on to where it's lost that effect on people. And
I don't
and
really think it has, Brandon, to be honest with you, as the fact that we're here in Florida and we go to the theme parks, we've gone to horror nights, and
yeah,
Beetlejuice is still like one of the most talked about houses. People want it to come
good.
back. Like there's always merch in the parks for it.
Yeah.
So I definitely think the love for it is still there. So I think and the way horror fans just come out for stuff, especially even like I said with the horror night stuff, I
Mhm.
definitely think we're gonna see a big calling for this by the time it hits theaters.
I hope we do, and my only fear is that people won't be super, super, super critical on it to the point where it's like, this is nothing like the original. Like, you gotta give some room for adaptation for a sequel. And I feel
Yeah,
like a
Yeah.
lot
40
of
years
times
later.
yeah, exactly. And when they do these things, to me, it's kind of a very risky move because you can't recreate something that's from the 80s or the
No.
90s. I mean, you gotta kind of adapt a little bit. And with respect, I think that you have to open your mind a little bit to that. But I still think that they have to stay true to that same content and the same characters and really push this more forward with what they built before. And
Yeah.
I feel like if they do anything other than that, it's going to fail. And I don't want
Mhm.
to see this thing fail like so badly. I do hope, and obviously we didn't see them in the trailer, but I do hope we do get to see a de-aged version of Barb and Adam, because they were such a
Mm.
huge part.
Yeah.
They were the stars of that
I was
movie.
totally missing them. So I was like, please,
Yeah,
like, even if it's just for a small cameo,
just for
bring
something.
Gina
Yeah,
Davis and Alec Baldwin back.
yeah.
Especially like Gina Davis. I'm not sure how far off in age they are as far as her and Alec, but both of them are definitely
They look
starting.
completely different than their characters that they
Yeah.
played. So I don't know how they do it, but if they do, I would love to see it.
Yeah. So who
Because
do
you can't.
you think's funeral they're at? Because the
It's the
opening
dad.
scene,
It's the
it's
guy that
been
played the dad.
confirmed. It
Yeah,
is
Well, I
think
okay.
I'm going to tell
I
you right
I would
now,
say
it's
so
it's
too.
him
Yeah.
Yeah.
because also he got canceled a few years ago
Oh,
Ugh.
really?
for some stuff.
Who
Yeah.
was the actor? I don't remember.
He played the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Um,
Oh.
Ben Stein?
he's is
No,
that it?
Ben
I
Ben
don't
Stein was,
remember
I
his name.
think. Oh no, Ben Stein was the teacher. Sorry,
Yeah,
not the
no,
principal.
not Ben Stein. No.
I was about
The
to say
guy
I
that
just
played the
don't remember
principal.
Ben Stein in Beetlejuice.
No, I don't remember 100% the situation, but I just remember like reports coming out a few years ago that that particular actor had some stuff go down,
Hmm.
and so he's like no longer working.
Mm.
Interesting.
And so that's why when I saw the trailer, I had to remind myself because at first I was like, for some reason my wires got crossed, and I was like, oh, I guess that means Alec Baldwin's on. And I was like, wait, Alec Baldwin wasn't the dad. That was dumb. I was like,
Yeah.
it was the other
He
guy.
was the ghostly father. It's
Yeah, it was
fine.
exactly. That's why I got mixed up because he played more of a father figure in that movie to Lydia
Yeah.
than her
Yeah.
actual dad.
And
And
it's such a weird thing with Baldwin too, because it's like, it's such a half and half thing. Like, I don't believe he's canceled.
mhm.
I think that it was a bad mistake and people have taken it so far, but I also, people will run with anything, and whatever the producers of the show decide to do is what they decide to do. But I hope they can bring him back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that would be on the table to do. That's my own personal
If
opinion.
they don't, they have to address it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if they don't
exactly.
bring either of them back, they have to address it. Maybe they were able to move on to the whatever's
Afterlife,
the
yeah.
A great
afterlife.
beyond or
They're not
whatever.
tethered to this plane anymore in any
Mhm.
way, shape, or form. Like they have to address it one way, shape, or form. One of the things that I saw, I can't remember who said it, but I saw this post and someone said that if they don't open the movie, or at least like the part when Beetlejuice shows back up, where his number's called
Mhm.
after all this time, that would just be
Yeah,
a waste. Like
I
that
agree.
30-year-old setup finally
Yeah.
paying off for a joke. And I apologize for saying 40 earlier. It wasn't 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But that would be just fantastic. Now
Mhm.
I'm gonna now turn it over to my personal Lydia Dietz here. Uh, now, babe, I know you're like, I know you're not like the biggest Beetlejuice fan, but we of course watch it every year for Halloween, and like we have some
Absolutely.
things that we really enjoy about that movie. What'd you think of this initial teaser, and like any hopes or anything that you have for it?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if there's anything left after everything we've said.
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
no,
I'm
you're
sorry.
good. You're good.
I was
That's
No.
what
really
the
hyped to
conversation's
talk.
for.
I was
Yeah.
really hyped to talk about this one.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it's awesome. I mean, I'm super excited. I'm mad it took so long, but I'm happy we're here. Like I said, I really want to see
Should have been at the
Alec.
20-year mark, not the 30. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I
And
agree with
even that
that.
would have been pushing it, but you know.
Uh-huh.
But I'm super excited to see what they do with it. I'm being probably way too optimistic, but I just want to be and just put my full faith in it that they're going to do a great job and it's going to be everything we hoped it would. Um, I'm interested to see what Jenny Ortega's going to do. I feel like half her properties have been great and then the other half have been kind of like, eh. So I don't know. I'm hoping that she does a good job, and I'm assuming she's Lydia's daughter. So I'm interested
Yes.
to see.
I think it was also I mean, it was the only casting choice, unless you brought Christina Ricci in somehow. I mean,
How?
Mm.
Yeah.
it's just to me the perfect casting choice. It's the only one you could go for.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think that she's going to do a great job with this. I mean, I think everybody pretty much loved her as Wednesday Addams. So, like, I think it's going to be great. I think she's going to do a fantastic job. I'm excited to see. When I was saying like some of her properties, that has to do a lot more with like the direction, the directing, the property, things like that, more than it is her as an actress. I think she's fantastic when she gets to kind of just run with things and put her whole heart into it. And obviously, we got that when she did Wednesday Addams. So super excited for the whole property and everything. Hopefully, we get our cameos, at least if they're not going to play bitter roles, you know, and hopefully everything going on with Alec and Rust and all the legality stuff works out for him in his favor and doesn't have like any negative effect on his career, so that they don't have any issues bringing him into the series. So
Yeah. A lot to hope for with this one. You know, a big kind of like big shoes to fill type of thing after such a long time.
Huge, yeah.
But the funny thing I had, and I'm sure everybody's kind of thought about this, but to think that we're getting Michael Keaton back in 2 of his iconic roles within a year is nuts.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the previous one was not good, but that's not his fault. That's the movie's fault. I do wish that, and I think I mentioned this to Ashley, I do wish that we could have gotten to see what he did with in Batgirl, with that whole thing, and like
Yeah, I
taking
agree.
someone under his wing, literally and figuratively, with that role, because what I wanted more than that, but what I was going to settle for with, and I hate to say that with the whole Batgirl thing, but what I wanted more than anything was for Michael Keaton to come back to do a live action Batman Beyond. That's what I wanted. That's what I hoped for, and so I was gonna like take what I could get with the Batgirl thing, where it was more or less the same thing, but he's mentoring Batgirl instead of
100%,
like
man.
a new Batman. So it's a huge bummer that like we'll never see that come to light. I really hope that something changes that does eventually happen.
I do too, because and I'll say this just on that note quickly. Brendan Fraser got me hyped up for that.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that interview that he did, man, where he's just like, dude, this is like such a good script. He's like, I played this type of character. It was this. I think he was supposed to be Firefly, was he not?
He was Firefly. The only thing I
God,
wish
that's
he
why
would have
it's so
done
good.
instead of that, I wish he could have played Clayface. I think
I
he would
could
have been
see that.
an amazing Clayface if they went with the one from like the animated series where he's an actor and everything like that. He could really play into like some of his real life stuff, and he could have tapped into that.
Yeah,
I think would have been incredible to see something like that. But regardless, like just to see him play such a different role, like a villain character in this type of movie, I was very hyped to see that.
Me too, man.
So we lost somebody, but I guess we're gonna keep. She's probably taking care of the dog. Let's see here. Hey, there she is. She's coming back. So let's jump on to the next one here. This is going to be. They dropped a trailer towards the end of, I think it was Friday of last week, for
Good
the
segue.
new.
We were talking about Batman going into
That's
this.
right. That's right.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. I wish I could say I tried that on purpose. The Penguin series. Now, this is the Penguin that we've seen in the Batman. This is a continuation. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this timeline wise is before or after the events of the Batman.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's after,
Mhm.
because he's doing a power play. From what I've heard, I think for the concept, he's doing a power play for Gotham, trying to take over with the loss of power from the guy.
Riddler. The Riddler.
Well, no, not Riddler. Riddler was
Sorry.
taking out everybody from the last
Yeah.
movie. Falcone, I think is what it was.
Mm.
Falcone died, and like he ran Gotham. So like I think he's making a power play to take Falcone's place essentially.
Yeah.
And so this is a very interesting concept. Like we've never really seen something like this where we're jumping back and forth from like, well, outside of Star Wars now, like jumping back and forth from like movie to series back into a movie type of thing. Because they also originally, and I don't know if this is still in development or not, but they were also going to do a GCPD series set within the same universe for of the Batman, which I don't know if that one's really necessary.
I hope they don't.
That like that's what Gotham was, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't see I hope they don't do that, man.
yeah, but as far as talking about this, like again, this is another one of those teaser trailers, not a ton of like story notes and stuff like that, more just some dialogue from him, which like he did an amazing job as the Penguin. Like I was, first of all, I didn't even realize, I had to keep reminding myself that it was Colin Farrell the entire time, because he's just completely lost, like obviously all the prosthetics and everything like that, but he loses himself in this character. And it's such a performance. Like the Penguin is not a fan favorite of mine at all. The Gotham version was very interesting, and that version did become like a sort of like a favorite for that series. But they did so many different things with that character, I kind of got tired of it after a while. But to do a much as serious, in my opinion, a serious version of this character and grounded version of this character as you could possibly do, I think that he did a fantastic job. I'm very interested to see what this series is, like where it goes, how it possibly leads into the next Batman movie, which now I believe we're not getting till 2026 or the end of 2025. I can't remember. Brandon, what did you think of this trailer?
It's promising. My only concern is that, and we kind of touched on it a second there, is that it doesn't do, along the lines of what Gotham already did. Gotham, more or less was up the alley of CW-esque shows, but Fox's spin on it. But I feel like they've kind of covered a ton of what the Penguin already is in the comics and how he got his origins and stuff. And I love that. And I hope they're not kind of gonna, more or less recreate that. I want to see something a little bit different. And when I say that, I'm not talking about necessarily like him trying to take over, what Falcone, what Falcone had, because that's a big part of what Penguin is and how he gets into power and how he becomes mayor and how he, the whole 9 yards. But I think that there is better room to shift this into a direction of storytelling, to expand upon him as a character. Whereas, maybe some of the things Gotham didn't touch on, and Gotham touched on a little bit too much in my opinion, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ride. I just want to see, this be as original as possible. Because I'll tell you, when I saw the Batman, this, adoration of the Batman, I was a little worried it was going to be a rinse and repeat of the Nolan trilogy and kind of very reminiscent of that. And not necessarily in a bad way, but more in the sense that it's just like, we've already been here, done this, why are we doing it again with a new set of actors and a new, the whole thing. But I was surprisingly, I was a little shocked at how much I liked it. And so I do have my hopes set based off of how I felt before and how surprised I was when my expectations were shattered, in again, a positive way. because I did not have high hopes for that at all. Not anything against Pattinson, but I could not see him as a Batman. And then, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. So I'm kind of feeling that is where I'm at right now with the trailer, at least, and my hopes on it is that I just hope I'm shocked, and I hope I see something, or I hope that I see it, and it makes me glad that I watched it, as opposed to, why did I do this? Why did they do it? Why did I waste my time?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I feel like it's going to be very action packed. I hope it is. And I don't have any doubt in my mind that Colin Farrell can do a fantastic acting job. My concern is based off of the storytelling and the direction of this series. It's a lot easier to flop a series than it is to flop a movie, in my opinion. It takes some effort to flop a movie, but with series, it's very easy for it to go by the wayside of the movie, and so it feels like at least they try a little less hard to make it something great. I hope that's not what we get, and I hope this is something really good.
Yeah,
I'm hoping, since they're putting the money in to bring Farrell back, that means they're taking it seriously. I mean, it definitely looked serious. I agree. It looks very action packed. I think they gave us a ton of action scenes in the trailer. First off, I agree with you, Brandon, when you say, like, with how the Fox show was very, like, CW-esque in a way. And yeah, it was interesting because it was like a new version of the Penguin that we got with that series with Gotham, in the sense that it
Abernathy, Darwin, Dunlap. Have you ever seen Accepted, Brandon?
No.
You have to watch that movie. It's fantastic.
It's really
he plays a really squirrely character. I'm sorry. Go ahead, babe.
Okay.
But with that guy, it's like they blended the original with, of course, the Danny DeVito Penguin and all the, like, quirky randomness with a more, like, psychologically sinister version of the Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
And that was neat. And I think it was like a palate cleanser. And that's why people kind of enjoyed it. But then it just went off. The whole show went off the rails, in my opinion, when they started towards the end, where they were trying to do too much. It kind of reminded me of the way Andrew felt about, this is kind of out of left field, but Once Upon a Time, where they kept making the same people different Disney characters. And that's kind of how it felt they were recycling characters and making these characters also, like, recycle into other characters.
To be clear, I barely watched that show. I just had Ashlyn explain it to me, and I was like, I'm never going to watch it.
Well, not only necessarily that, what stands out to me and why I feel like it's more CW-esque is the fact, primarily because not only just, you're mixing a little bit, maybe too much romance in here, and it doesn't really fit, that sort of thing. CW is fantastic at doing that. But they're also, what they do so much in so many of their shows, and this is what Gotham replicated, was they kill off a character. You're like, damn, man, that was a good ending for that character. Let's find a way to fucking resurrect them. Why? You don't know why. We ran out of ideas. That's why. It happens.
It's the recycling of the characters, and then they come back and they try to use them in a different capacity, whether it's a completely different character or it's like some different version of the original character, and it's just the recycling shit that just gets
Solomon Grundy.
Old.
So exactly. No pun intended. But
yeah.
I think I feel like with that show specifically, they wasted their time doing so much of that they're then having to rush the ending because they've wasted so much time focusing on a season of story arcs of a resurrected character or characters. It's like, God dang, just fucking finish it.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see this more, like, not only physically more sinister version of the Penguin, but like the gangster side of it, because we never really see that where you believe it. Because I really, like, even with the Gotham version where he was kind of running things, like, no one ever really took him seriously as sinister. He might have been portrayed as crazy and people feared him for that, but they never really felt, you never felt the sinisterness that you
The
get from Colin
presence there.
Farrell
Yeah.
and the presence and like the old school gangster. And so that is really exciting to kind of see where this goes. I don't think any of us can kind of predict where it's going, but I really like that. And I was genuinely surprised by the Batman as well.
Mhm.
Because I was like, this is a joke when they announced patents, and I was like, this is just not his.
And you watched Twilight, so like, you know,
Yeah.
if anybody on this panel could have been excited for it, it's you. But the problem is you're too much of a Batman fan,
That
so
is
you
very
were
true.
very concerned at the time. I don't
But
know.
he
My
did
whole
a
thing.
really good job.
Oh
Like,
yeah, for sure.
I
For
was
the version that
shocked.
they created and like the world that they set around him, like I can't imagine him doing any better in that particular movie. You know what I
So
mean?
this is more like with the comics, you know, how the Dark Knight trilogy is obviously based off the Dark Knight comics. This one is like supposed to be like year 2 for him, but it kind of reminds me of like for the comics, like Batman year 1.
Well, I mean,
So
essentially that's what it is. Yeah.
yeah.
It's because there's year 1 and there's year 2, but it's year 1 without being year 1. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
It's
but
him once he's got his shit together, basically. We've
yeah,
gone
he's
through like the ninja part of it and him morphing into the Batman and not just the ninja stuff from year 1.
because we didn't need another origin story. You know,
Exactly.
we didn't need another Batman Begins or anything like that.
Yeah.
We just needed to pick up where he's like at least a little bit established and go from there. But obviously
And I
he's
think that's
young,
why
so we have to do
it's
that.
so gritty, is because following Batman's story, he's shown up, he's been away for all this time, and Gotham has just gone further and further and further downhill, and without having any sort of, you know, obviously a vigilante, because the cops are all half paid off by the mob. So everything's gone to shit. And it's so much worse and so much grittier because he hasn't been there. So now he's cleaning everything up. So that's why it's nice to see this more grittier version. Like it follows in step with the comics and everything.
My whole thing is I trust Matt Reeves. He's a fantastic director and writer. I was excited when he signed on for a Batman movie even before like we started hearing about casting and all that kind of stuff. Just to think about what his version of a Batman would. This is very different from what I thought he was going to do, but I think it really works. So I'm excited to see this series, and like we've talked about, hopefully, you know, it pays off in spades, you know. So let's keep moving here. So the next one, the last of the I'm sorry, not the last of the trailers. Like I said, we have a lot of trailers today, people. Another series that's going to be popping up here pretty soon is the new Fallout series. We watched this right before we jumped on. I am not really a Fallout person myself, like never really played the games. I know very little about this. So, Brandon, did you play this series of games at all?
I lost my life to it for a little bit. You know, have you heard about, I'm sure, you know, you're not a big gamer, I know, but have you know the hype behind Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the same studio that made Skyrim.
Right.
And their other baby is the Fallout series. So you got Elder Scrolls and then you got Fallout. And that's their two babies, and they're polar opposites from each other, but the same type of gameplay, open world, not survival so much, but open world RPG, and third and first person. So for me, I picked up Fallout 3 at probably, I don't know, it was close to when it released. I never played the originals, the top downs or anything like that, but I started with Fallout 3. I bought it for cheap at a GameStop or some game store, secondhand game store, I don't remember. And took it home. And what's crazy, and you'll see it in the trailer too. How it starts is you're in a vault, and you think that, at least for me, I thought the game was you're just in the vault. That is the whole game. This is your life. You're in this vault, and you know, it's kind of, I didn't know what type of game it was. That was what I loved about that experience of Fallout, was I didn't even know what I bought. It looked cool on the cover and I bought it. And it is to this day one of my favorite games of all time, because once you step outside of the vault, And you're like, there's a part of it where you got to escape the vault, and shit's going down and blah blah blah. You leave the vault and you step outside, and you see how massive the world is. And I'm a sucker for open world games. I love them. I love the detail that goes into them, and the fact that game that it's like every NPC you go across, you talk to, for the most part, you can talk to and have dialogue options, and it's just like it blew my mind at such a young age. So I grew up with that. Played Fallout New Vegas. Played Fallout 4. Played the shitty 76. Too many hours of 76. And it just that series holds such a special place for me. I literally I just dropped a lot of stuff doing this, but the lunchbox for it. I had the collector series of all of them. I'm a huge Fallout fan, and the biggest thing that is a concern for people right now with this series is that it's a video game series being adapted to a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
We know how this goes with the movies. I was hyped about Assassin's Creed. That was a huge letdown. I've been hyped about other stuff before, other adaptations. And it's just been like, when are we going to get something good? Right now, as it sits with the trailer, I'm really, really excited for it because it looks like they're doing it very, very good and very lore specific to the games. Showing the Brotherhood of Steel was a huge, huge plus in my book because they didn't have to do that. They are in somewhere, I think it's outside of California right now, which is close to where Fallout New Vegas takes place, but that was more of a Midwestern style game, or a Western style game, I should say.
I was like, Midwestern game? What's that?
No, yeah, no. It's more of like it's very Southern, cowboy-esque.
No, I got what you meant.
But yeah, so they didn't have to bring in the Brotherhood of Steel, but that is such a huge part of Fallout, and I'm glad they have. Going through it, I see, you see the bobblehead on the table. That's a big plus for me. You see stim packs, you see Radaway, you see the creatures, Brahmin, you see lots of other details for this trailer that is tying back into the games. What I don't know is if this is in the same Fallout universe as the games, or if it's completely separate. And if it's completely separate, I don't know why they're doing that. I would hope it's in the same universe at least, so that they can maybe tie in some characters. I don't know when this takes place, if it's in the same universe. I don't know of anything regarding that, but I hope that if it is in the same universe, at least, that they do it justice. Kind of goes along with everything we've been saying tonight about these trailers. It's like, we hope that it does turn out good and, exceeds our expectations. I can't say that more about this series because, I'll challenge you. Just go to the YouTube section or the comment section of the YouTube video of the trailer and just look at what people are saying. Everyone's just like, I need this to be good because we have had so many letdowns for video game adaptations, and this one has such a rise or fall situation. This was rumored.
I don't know why mine always does this.
Your phone always does it. I don't know why.
I don't know what it I don't touch it. It just randomly in the middle just turns for no reason.
This was rumored to be a thing years ago, and then we got a teaser trailer, and now we have a full trailer, and it's like, it just looks so promising. I saw some complaints about the female lead in this maybe not being as charismatic or not capturing a main character type. But I have my faith that they can do it well. They have the budget for it, and they have, from what I understand, Todd Howard, who is the director of those games and still is the director of Bethesda Studios, not at the helm of this, but closely watching it and putting an input and whatnot.
That's good.
So it's going to have those core values. What I'm concerned with is story and narrative and direction, because they could destroy this really, really easily and piss off a lot of fans, or they could really make this a Fallout lover's absolute dream show. So I'm hoping it's for the second and not for the first. So much, because like I said, this is one of my favorite franchises of all time.
Oh, that's, I mean, for someone that is such a massive fan, I'm glad to hear that you're, excited for it, that it, for at least what you can see out of it, seems to be going in a good direction, because that's something, especially for anything video game related, that is always so lacking. Obviously, this has a much, I'd say, larger and longer fan base for the series that it is, but it is in the similar vein of The Last of Us situation, where like everyone was like, this is a make or break type of thing. Like if if this isn't done well, like from the first episode, I'm done. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, man.
So I get similar vibes in that sense, as far as like the, how serious this needs to be taken. As someone that, like, again, knows very little about this series, has never played the games, but just has a little bit of some story points from what I've heard of different games. The trailer looks very interesting. Stepping from an outsider's standpoint, it looks like something that, even though I don't really know that much about the world itself, I'm kind of excited to find out about it. The trailer really sold me on checking it out when it comes out. I love the actor they got playing the dude with the no nose thing.
Yeah,
I can never remember his name, but he's been in a ton of stuff.
Oh yeah,
and he's so good at playing like a bad guy, or like, anti-hero, or whatever he's usually a bad guy, but sometimes he's a little bit of both. I love seeing him pop up and stuff, because I don't want to say he plays like more or less the same guy and everything, but like, I guess because his voice never changes, like I just kind of see him and it's just like, oh, it's that guy, It's just like, but I'm excited to see him do something where it's like, I'm not, because of the look of his character, I'm not focusing so much on his face, and maybe I can get a little bit more lost in his character in that sense. Ashlyn, I know you really don't know anything about this. What did you think of the trailer?
Well, I recognize the doll, and I've heard of the games, because, like, I don't live in a hole in the ground, so like,
you don't.
So even though we're not huge gamers, like, I've heard of it. I remember hearing about it in school 1,000 years ago when I was in school and things like that. So
you look great for your age, by the way. Keeping it toy.
Oh Lord. But the trailer really grabbed me. It's funny, and I'm going to age myself here for saying this, but
you already did, so it's fine.
I know, but only the like elder millennials and going back are going to know about this movie. But the whole beginning reminded me of Blast from the Past.
Yes.
And so, but then like immediately after she gets out of the vault, that of course
takes a left turn,
It's like a hard turn. But it gave me those vibes enough to where it was like, I really get like severe like anxiety and PTSD almost from anything to do with nuclear family in that time period, and just the ick and the cringe so much. But I think it's going to go well for this. Like, I'm going to power through all the cringe of all that stuff.
You shouldn't have to power through much. If they do this right, if they do this right, you'll see some of the vault and more of the outside world.
Yeah. Yeah, no, just the beginning with the guy and everything that, of course, Andrew said is the guy that ends up showing up later with no nose.
Yep.
And everything like that. So I'm interested to see the like evolution of his character and where this is going, especially with the fact that he came off so much as that typical like 1950s nuclear husband, and seeing like where he's gonna be now. So it's very interesting. I'm excited to watch the series and like learn about the world and everything like that. As far as like what you were saying in the comments with people being like, the lead actress isn't like, attention grabbing enough, or like looks like, it's like, okay,
she's homeschooled, like she's gonna be socially awkward in the real world. I mean, come on,
You're not, you make a very valid point. I'll say this too on the side of what people were saying about her is, if you play the games too, you know that the people that grew up in the vaults, they were never in the outside world. They don't know what it's like. And so they're all happy-go-lucky most of the time. And then they step outside and they're like, holy shit, it's fucked out here. And so I'm interested to see the lead character's transition. And you kind of see it in the trailer when she's coming out covered in blood and stuff. And she's
he calls her like, hey, killer. So like she's obviously like had to kill some people.
Yeah.
And seeing her evolution. But it's like, don't count her out, but also be thankful that they didn't just go for an easy grab of just like a name recognition to throw in there and then have somebody that can't have the chops. Be happy that maybe they're going with someone a little less known. I don't know who it was that they got for the girl, but I think it's awesome that they are trying to use somebody who hopefully has the chops, isn't just there to be in your face. That way you also aren't just like, oh, it's just so-and-so playing this character. You get to see the character and get someone that hopefully is going to put their all into it.
Right.
And not
they can just get lost in that character and you can get lost in that character. It's like, it's kind of like you were saying the thing with like Jenny Ortega. Like I hadn't seen her in anything prior to Wednesday. So so watching Wednesday with the whole Addams Family thing, you have this massive property that I have a connection to from my past and a bunch of movies that came before. So I was really skeptical. And then you have this actress that I don't know at all, but because of that, she could lose herself more in it, in my opinion. And I could get lost in her performance more in that sense, because she's not coming off of something that I'm judging her from. You know what I mean? So I think I have a similar vein with this take as well. Hopefully, like you said, hopefully it works out in the best case.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I think it's funny too, and I know you're not going to understand this, what I'm about to say, but there's a spot in Fallout 4 that's very, very reminiscent of this, of the opening trailer. So, just a little backstory: what happens to some people in the wasteland, as it's called, if they're exposed to nuclear radiation, is they turn into what is called a ghoul. And that's what you saw with the dude with no nose. And they age very, 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 very slowly because of that radiation that's happened to them and affected their bodies. But it's funny to me, like in Fallout 4, the opening scene is like, it's you're in that nuclear family in the 60s, right? And then you get a knock at the door and there's a salesman there pitching the vaults to you, like, oh, what happens if nuclear bombs drop? You want your family to be safe, sign up right here to go into the vault, blah blah blah, you're selected. And that salesman later shows up. Long story short, to Fallout 4, your main character gets cryogenically frozen, and 200 years after bombs have fallen and the world is destroyed, you come out and you go through the game, but later on you find that salesman and he's turned into a ghoul. And it's like, and they're like, he's like, hey, I sold you a vault years ago. And,
like,
there's like a whole side, there's like a whole side quest to it and everything, and it's really funny because that's kind of what they did in the trailer, where you see that salesman and he's pitching the vaults and describing the vaults, and then you see he's a ghoul, and I'm like, I see what they did. I see what they did.
Now, so, I'd be amiss for not mentioning this. Josh, have you ever been to Gods and Monsters in Orlando?
I'm not Josh.
Andrew, that's Brandon.
You know why I said that? Because I took Josh to Gods and Monsters. That's
okay. I'm also the resident Fallout man. So resident Fallout man, resident Marvel. I get it. Easy mix up.
Brandon, have you been to Gods and Monsters in Orlando?
I've heard of it. I've never actually been.
Okay, so I'm sure you are aware that they have a Fallout bar.
Yes.
There. Yes. So we'll have to take you there sometime. It's really cool. And I'm sure you, of all people, would really appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Can I drink Nuka-Cola? Do they have like the drink? Oh, that's badass. Do they have like the glowing one too? The Nuka-Cola?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know if they have the specific. I know they have a drink called Nuka-Cola. I don't know if they necessarily are selling like, Nuka-Colas or whatever the case may be. But
I have a light up Nuka-Cola somewhere in here.
It's a really cool place. For those of you out there that don't know, Gods and Monsters is a comic shop that actually has like a little speakeasy bar in the back, and it is Fallout themed. It's called Vault. I think it's 5421. I think is what it is.
That's cool.
Something like that, and it's really awesome, especially considering the space that they're working with for that. So if you're ever in the Orlando area, look it up, Gods and Monsters in Orlando.
That'll be our next field trip, Brandon.
Yeah,
we'll take you and Kat.
That's fun.
All right, so let's move on to our last trailer of the day. Again, big trailer day here at the show. We had the new Bad Boys Ride or Die trailer drop yesterday, I believe. And I mean, I've been a fan of the Bad Boys franchise like for a very long time, since like way before I should have been watching it. I just remember watching the original one like on cable mostly, so like at least a quarter of that stuff has to get cut out. But even still, you can't not love like Will Smith in this movie, like how charismatic he is. Martin Lawrence just being the funny guy. Like eventually, yes, some of his shtick gets a little bit old, but unlike how we joke about Kevin Hart, like he's not in the limelight as much nowadays, so I can take him every couple years showing up in something like this or whatever and appreciate it. But Ashlyn, I know you are a massive Bad Boys fan. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, this is definitely your thing, for sure.
But for someone that maybe doesn't find it as entertaining, what did you think of the trailer?
I'll let you do your rant about the names of all the movies.
Oh,
in a minute.
Okay, fine. Well, you know what? Since you brought it up, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. And I'm sure it's been mentioned on many other shows. They messed up so badly with these stupid freaking titles. It should have been Bad Boys for Life on this one, not on the third movie on this one, especially because they set up, whether they knew for sure they could make a fourth movie, they made a post-credit scene in that movie setting up the next film. So even if they weren't 100% sure they'd make enough money to justify it, just play it safe, because that is something I'm never going to forgive them for doing For Life on the third movie. I'm sorry, that's stupid. Ashlyn, please continue, because like I get worked up over that dumbass thing all the time. Please continue.
No, I enjoyed them. Of course, you wouldn't have the sequels without the first one, but I would definitely say it's like the first one, and then I really enjoyed the third one. I feel like we all could kind of live without the second one. Like it was, I'd say, the most mid one out of all of them. So the fourth one looks like it's following the same kind of tone as the third one did. So I'm excited for it to see where it goes. I swear to God, this better be the last one. I feel like we've built this franchise for all it's worth at this point.
It's starting to Fast and Furious real quick.
Yeah.
So hopefully, like
Bad Boys in the nursing home.
So hopefully this means that this is the last one. I was excited to see that they did get to bring the captain's character back, even posthumously. So I'm interested to see how that's all going to play out. And I'm always just so impressed with how well they're able to like make up Will Smith and make him look so young in these movies. And then you see his photos in real life at his real age, and you're like, those two people don't look anything like each other. It's just crazy.
I think it also helps when he's standing next to Martin Lawrence. You know what I mean? Like it just automatically makes him look younger. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's just so funny because like they pulled him up, the trailer starts and he looks as young as he did in the second and third one, and I'm just like, my dude, you do not look like this when we see you outside of these movies. Like you just don't. But I was like, but he looks good for his age and everything.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I agree with you about the captain thing, because that was a huge shock in that last movie to lose that character, because he was like a mainstay, like a necessary, in my opinion, a necessary character for these movies. So it was a huge bummer for them to have, but they needed that like emotional component, that dramatic movie, because they weren't actually going to kill Will Smith's character right off the bat or anything. And that's pretty much how, in my opinion, how like whether it's in this one or if they for some reason, God forbid, do a fifth movie, the only way it's going to end is when one of them dies. I'm sure it won't be both of them dying, but one of them has to die.
Yeah.
Brandon, your thoughts on this trailer?
It's hit or miss for me. I don't really care that much about the series. I've seen them. You know, it's whatever. I kind of said all I really needed to say about it with my, you know, interjectory comment earlier that it's just really going the direction of Fast and Furious. I mean, I just don't care. I mean, yay, we got another one. I fully stand behind what you said though about the names. That's the stupidest thing. I'm not gonna get you all riled up again, but like I just want you to know I fully agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel seen. Okay.
I want you to. But I see it just like as, you know, if you got nothing to do when this movie comes out one night and you want to go see it, have fun, just whatever.
Enjoy your popcorn flick.
It's
a turn your brain off type of blockbuster. That's all it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Explosions, cars, and Will Smith.
Literally,
Yay.
Michael Bay explosions.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say this too. I mean, it's what is this, like the first real movie that he's done since that whole Oscar slap situation? Like,
I think so. Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of shocked that they're even still doing it. I mean, I've heard rumors of I Am Legend 2. Don't know why they're doing it, but you know, I don't know. I mean, I guess this is part of his comeback. Maybe, I don't know.
You know what's funny about you bringing up I Am Legend 2 is the only way that makes sense is if they do the alternate ending that you only know about if you watched it on the DVD where he actually survives.
I agree. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, man. But what?
Well, because, you know, we just recycle. We can't come up. There's a bajillion properties we could do. I have bookshelves full of ideas that we could do. Yep. And, you know, we just recycle the same old shit.
Go fucking tell him, Ashlyn. Let's get the ball rolling. I'm with you. I got you. I back you 100% because like that, I'm tired of it. Like this movie should not have had 4 movies. Like I'll just say that it just shouldn't have.
No,
I think they could have ended it with the third movie. I think the third movie
a good way to wrap it up. Yeah,
exactly. Would have been a really good way to wrap it up. We could have made up for what the second movie wasn't. Brought it back after a good like 15 odd years or something like that. Yeah. And wrap it up on the third, do the trilogy thing. You know, it's kind of like, I will say though, I was going to say kind of like with Rush Hour, but I'm a massive Rush Hour fan.
Yeah.
Like way over.
Calling for that though. I don't think a lot of people have been like, we need another Bad Boy.
No, I'm with you. That's the thing. Yeah. Like I totally want a Rush Hour.
Yeah.
I still want that to happen.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Like that over Bad Boys any day, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I just don't care too much.
No, it's fine. I'm with you on that. The one thing I'll say about the trailer is I didn't realize, I guess when I went to go watch it, that like it's a Red Band trailer. Like they're showing headshots and dropping F-bombs left and right, which like I get that it's a rated R movie. They're always rated R. But I didn't realize because normally you have like the red, thing pop up like with the rating.
Yeah, I didn't notice it either.
And it goes into it, and they're just like F this and F that. And I was like, oh, we're just going for it. Okay, cool. We're not holding anything back. Like we've got, especially with them doing the little introduction at the beginning, be like the trailer's starting now. I really didn't expect it to be followed by like a rated R version of the trailer. So I think that's what caught me off guard more than anything. I'm with you. Like story wise, I don't care. I'm just gonna go in, turn my brain off for a moment. I'm just hoping it's more entertaining than Fast and Furious is, because like you said, it's turning into that. But I hope to God that they are even like a half time better than what the last Fast and Furious movie was, because it was just garbage. That last movie, I made Ashlyn watch it even though it was absolute garbage because I wanted to see her reaction to everything, and it was so worth it. She'll never watch it again, but
you'll never get that time back either, brother. You're robbing her. You're robbing her.
Well, I had to suffer, so
That's okay. All right.
The best part of the movie was just Jason Momoa being just like a complete fucking just. Oh my
out of
God.
Left field character. Like, man, he's so, I've said it before, he's so flamboyant and over the top, and he's like he's like Dom's Joker times 100 as far as the ridiculousness of his
He's
character.
just there having a good time. He just
I feel
showed
like
up
Vin
to
Diesel
set and he
absolutely
just
hated him on set. I just know he hated him,
because he
and that's
takes
what makes
those
me love it.
movies too serious.
Yeah.
Like he literally thought in his fucking adult brain that they were gonna win an Oscar off of one of these movies. Like he's fucking nuts. Like
This is nothing butts. All right, so that's it for all the trailers that we had. Appreciate y'all hanging through with all that. Lot of stuff to go through. Now, something did drop today that was pretty interesting. I didn't watch any like teasers for it because I kind of want to just watch as is. They dropped a Spider-Verse short today called The Spider Within. It's just like a 6 or 7 minute short that they did set within like the story that they've already set up. Just a little bit more about Miguel dealing with having to be Spider-Man and like the anxieties and stuff like that. Like his kind of like his inner monologue and thought process of dealing with all this and the pressure that it puts on him is a very interesting thing. They took a horror approach with it, and which I thought was very interesting. I did not see that coming with this.
Andrew
Ashlyn,
does know that the character's name is Miles, not
All right.
Miguel.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
I am messing up left and right today.
You're doing your
it
best.
is Miles.
Okay. You're sick.
It
You're
is
sick.
Miles.
Okay.
There is a Miguel in the new movie. But it's Miles. Thank you, Ashlyn. So since you corrected me as all good wives should, Ashlyn, what did you think of this short?
Oh goodness. Oh my gosh. It was very good. It was I didn't know what to expect from it. Obviously, it's just kind of like probably like some sort of side fun project. It doesn't really
It's like
have
a one shot type of thing.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with any of the movies or the third installment. It was definitely that horror-esque. It definitely gave me vibes of, we're seeing Miles's internal struggle with being, of course, Spider-Man and him struggling with it and like all the struggle of like the secret and having to keep it from his parents and him trying to hold it all together and all this pressure on a kid that is in, I forget, at this age, is he high school or middle school?
I think he's high school
High
now.
school, yeah. So he's like all this struggle, and it really made me, even though I'm about to be 34, kind of go back to that age and remember the struggle at that age of everything that you have going on. Like, oh yeah, because he's preparing to go to college and everything, and like how heavy everything feels when you're that young because you're approaching so-called adulthood at 18.
Is there something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull? Sorry, I had to do that. You said heavy. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was like, what?
I thought Brandon would get that one.
Nah, I'm sorry, man. I
No?
tried.
Okay. Back to the future, but okay.
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 Gotcha. Anyways, weirdo. Like, it just, you could tell the seriousness that they were kind of trying to go for with this, and like I said, kind of remembering that age of being 18 almost, and like how just like everything feels like the end of the world when you're that age and you're like trying to be your own person and dealing with your parents and everything like that. So it really felt the emotionality of it, and then like the whole like whatever the shadow of the spider character thing going on there with his internal struggle and thoughts and that darkness that he's trying to handle with that. And then I really liked how they showed you that no matter how, like, I'm trying not to use the word heavy, but
it's fine. I won't say it twice. It's fine.
How just like no matter how deep and dark all those internal thoughts feel, and like whatever you're struggling with, that he could still go reach out to his dad and just be like, hey dad, can we talk, and just go for a walk, and that he had that person to reach out to, even though at first he was kind of like shoving his dad off and didn't want to hang out or anything, that he finally felt like he could come back and reach out to his dad And even if he doesn't tell him everything, which of course he's not going to, that he just felt like he could have that conversation and like he had that person to turn to. I thought that was really sweet that he was able to do that. So I'm probably reading way too much into it. Maybe, I don't know, but I liked those tones of it.
No, I mean I think that's probably what they were going for. Like they encased it in this like horror-esque, vibe of a scene and everything like that. But it really was playing on his anxieties, his stress, his mental state and everything like that, dealing with the pressures of obviously being young and all that, but obviously the Spider-Man aspect of it all playing a massive role into it. So no, I don't think you're reading too much into it. I think that's really, I would argue that's probably what they were going for. And I just have to say one thing about this: fuck all the spiders. I hate spiders, and I really didn't appreciate everything they were doing with that. With whether it be the giant spiders or all the little spiders and the one coming out of his mouth. I don't appreciate that as someone who has arachnophobia. But besides that, Brandon, what did you think of this short?
Thank you, Ron Weasley, for not liking spiders.
Thank you.
But no, I thought it was very well done for a short. Very out of left field that they just dropped that out of nowhere. I was reading somewhere that it like had to do with some guy's fund or something. I don't know. Like if you go to the YouTube video, you can see that there is there's like some donation fund and that it was made for this one dude's, I guess, memoriam fund or something. I don't know.
Interesting.
I didn't read too much into it, but if you go to the video, you can see and donate if you want to, I guess. But but yeah, so it was very deep for just dropping a short like that out of left field. And I always love with the Spider-Verse movies, on top of it just being so story driven and beautiful and fantastic, and every word that is outstanding, that you have such a awesome relationship with Miles and his dad and his mom in the last movie too. But specifically, it's always been like Miles' relationship with his dad is equivalent to, in my book, it's more, but in the realm of Spider-Man, it is like the equivalent of Peter Parker and Uncle Ben. And that dynamic that they had as more or less father and son dynamic. But I love seeing it. I love anytime you see it on screen. It's always very heartwarming, and it's deep, and can shed light to a younger generation on, kind of not necessarily how to talk to parents, because, he's still keeping the secret of being Spider-Man, but in a way, kind of, yes, because it delves into emotions, and, and you see that he wasn't, he may have been like really terrified of that nightmare, but at the time, at the end of it, he goes and he's like, "Hey, I need to talk about this. I need to get this off my chest." And I think that's something everybody can relate to, where if, they need to talk to somebody, and who's Miles going to talk to more than anybody else but his dad. And, I love how his dad was just like, just immediately drops everything and it's just like, yeah, let's go talk. Let's go for a walk. It's just beautiful. It's heartwarming and I love it. So, so I enjoyed it. I mean, I really thought that they did it well for it just being out of left field. I still don't understand why, but I'm happy that they did it. So,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Just an odd little placeholder until we eventually get the third part of the Spider-Verse series, which I think
I wouldn't be opposed to seeing more. I hope they do it
if
kind of like on a regular
shorts,
basis.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's possible that we might get something. What I'd like to see is one of the other Spider-Verse characters, like get a short, like maybe one or two of those before we get the next movie or something like that. Which I don't know when we're going to get the next movie, even though it was supposed to be, I think, this year. I don't think that's happening now. I think they've delayed it to 2025 at this point, because it was supposed to be kind of like a back-to-back thing release, like a year apart. But when the last one came out, they hadn't even started recording like lines for it. I'm sure they have a lot of the artwork stuff working on, but they hadn't actually started recording all the actors' lines for the movie, because every time they were interviewed about it, they were like, "Yeah, no, actually, we haven't officially started on it yet as far as that part of it." So I think we're still a ways out from that one. I'm hoping we don't have to wait any longer than 2025.
Yeah.
I know there
I
was a
have
bit
an
of a
idea
gap.
for a short. I think we need to at least see Peter B. Parker and Mary Jane and the baby and see what all her shenanigans that she's up to at this point.
I
She
agree.
is so cute. Like, I just absolutely adored their storyline in the last movie.
Kind of like a three
super
men and a
cute.
baby, but it's just Peter and the baby. Like the baby's getting into shenanigans type of thing.
Yeah,
Like,
I need it. She's so freaking
it kind of.
cute.
Oh, you know what I was thinking? It reminds me of like the Roger Rabbit shorts, where it's
Oh,
like
yeah, like
the
with
baby
Baby
Herman's
Herman.
climbing across the beam or something like that, and just chasing after. Oh my god! You know, something ridiculous like that would be hilarious. But yeah, I'd love to see that, and like maybe one of the other ones from either the first or the second one. But I'd rather see one of the characters we've seen from the first one, whether it be like Spider-Man Noir or even like the
robot
I think it's Penny
yeah,
and the robot.
yeah.
That one would be cool. Like maybe her making the new robot or something like that, because she has the second version of it in the second movie. So I don't know. Like you said, very out of left field, but a very interesting, like kind of like a palate cleanser type of thing, especially for a series like this. Looking forward to the next installment. Obviously, hopefully it's sooner rather than later. Now, before we jump into our last two topics of the day, unfortunately, our buddy Brandon here has not seen Ghostbusters and still hasn't watched X-Men. Boo, by the way.
He's just like,
so, yeah. So we're gonna have him sign off a little bit early, but before you jump off, bud, please tell the people where they can find you.
ventureauthentics on every platform you know of. If I don't have it, sorry. That's it. That's all I got. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Didn't see X-Men. Sorry. Not yet.
Yeah.
It'll
not,
happen
and of course
eventually.
it's not that we don't want him on the show. It's just we planning to talk spoilers with these things, and I'd rather not do it with somebody who hasn't seen it.
Don't let him
so
lie
he
to
can.
You. He's kicking me off.
That's right.
Yeah.
Get off my screen for not watching X-Men.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you later. Okay.
Absolutely. Have
Bye,
a good night.
Brandon.
See you guys.
All right. So, first of all, we are going to do a quick little review for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. We were both really big fans of the last installment, Afterlife. I'd say way more than the originals. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
We're not massive like Ghostbusters fans. It's like we appreciate the movies for what they are and kind of the nostalgia of them and the how they're iconic in the like zeitgeist of movies and stuff like that. But as far as watching them, like we rewatched all three leading up to this movie, and we're both just kind of like, yeah, they're fun, you know, they are what they are. But the last one, Afterlife, has a massive like emotional component to it with the storyline that they created for that with I can't remember his name right now, but
Spangler.
Yeah. Egon Spangler.
Egon Spangler.
Egon Spangler. Thank you. With that whole component and how obviously the actor had passed away, so they had to figure out a way to, if they're bringing all these people back, honor him, but include him in a way that also honors him. And I think they absolutely nailed it. Both the last movie and I believe this one were directed and written by the son of the original director, Reichman, is the last name, and I think he did a fantastic job. He was, you know, the last one, it ended with them saying for the actor that passed away, and then this time it was for his dad, who I believe is no longer with us, unfortunately. But as far as talking about this particular movie, I know there's been a lot of back and forth with some people. Some people like very mid on it. Like they don't hate it, they just like aren't super hyped on it, like necessarily like they might have been with the last movie. Although I don't think the last one was super. It's not that it was disliked, but I don't think everyone was just like raving about it. out of the gate. Part of that I say is because it came out when things were still kind of like recovering from with the box office as people going back to the theaters, because that was just a couple years ago at this point. And so it didn't necessarily make the money it did. I think most people caught it when it hit streaming or when they were watching on DVD or whatever the case may be. So I think the love for it found its love later on. Um, I thought that this movie was really good. I thought that maybe I didn't love it as much as the last one, but I love that we got a continuation of what was set up in the last one, and I got to have a lot more fun this time around, because this time we're not dealing with the death components and like the carrying on the legacy and stuff like that. We're more like building upon the legacy that came before, and a lot of different story points. My biggest criticism with this was I think there was a few too many storylines playing out at one time. They have like all the different characters kind of like split up into different things. It's fine that they're not all together at the same time. I just think they were throwing so many ideas at the wall at one time that sometimes certain things didn't necessarily get to be flushed out, or I felt that some characters weren't getting to do as much as they should, or whatever the case may be. But Ashlyn, I know you really enjoyed this. What were your thoughts on Frozen Empire?
I absolutely loved it. I know it's really easy for people nowadays to just shit on something before they even see it and claim it's not living up to the last one. And I just didn't see what everybody else was, for the ones that were complaining about it, saw. All the callbacks were great. Seeing Slimer again was fantastic. Um, as far as like, I really enjoyed getting to spend more time with Ray and his character in the bookshop, and like
Yeah, that was
going
pretty cool.
into the occult stuff more. And I love that they brought everybody back from the third movie pretty much. I mean, Podcast is there, Lucky's there. Podcast is ridiculous. He's so cute though. Cute little kid. Like, he's a mess though. But like, that Lucky's there, and she's working with Ernie's character, and they're working.
Podcast grew up a lot between that movie and this one. And,
It
like,
reminded me of like Stranger Things, how we just went from
yeah,
them being like little babies and then just
because he had like when he was like a young kid, and he still had like that little bit of like it sounds ridiculous, a little bit of that like chubby little baby
baby
face
face. Yeah.
type of thing. And then in this one, he's all like tall and not lanky, but like he's grown into himself. And I'm like, is that the same kid? Like, I had to look it up to see if it was the same
Yeah.
one. But yeah, it's
But
like you said, very much Stranger Things in that regard.
but it was cool seeing them, like the kids being able to kind of split up and do their thing. So like the Spangler unit is their thing, and the four of them are together. And then you've got, of course, Podcast is with Ray, and then you've got Lucky with Ernie's character, and like all the stuff that he's working on behind the scenes. And that was really cool to see that like he's flushing all his money into the Ghostbusters and building this new containment, and them trying to understand everything. As far as like the main ghost villain thing, like I feel like that's where they lost people a little bit, was going with that. But it was cool, like, and it was neat to have the introduction of the new character with Camille Nanjiani's character.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole history, like I loved all the history stuff, was really cool, and the introduction of different cultures and everything like that. So all overall, it was like an 8.5 for me. I really liked it. I just feel like the big bad ghost, like some of that fell a little flat when it came to like the history and why it's showing up and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked Camille's character and the history of his mom being a warrior, and I loved how they
His
showed
grandma.
the grandma, sorry. And I loved how they showed the firehouse was where the Adventurers Club was back in the day, where it happened the first time. Like it's the building. Like they showed the firehouse and everything. So like that was really neat. With the history of the building being like a hot spot for activity and everything like that. And I really loved the fact that we got to see oh gosh, the other new character, the guy at the library, what's his actor's name?
Oh, Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt and his character, that was super fun. And then having the original librarian ghost there that chases Ray again,
Mhm.
that like all the callbacks were great. Having some of the original ghosts show up,
Yeah.
everything new that they added, I really liked. I really do genuinely feel like it was just the big bad ghost that might have just been a tiny bit, just like a little bit off, but not by much.
I think the problem, in my opinion, with that was it was a bit rushed at the end. With the big bad. Like once it came to fruition as far as like its full strength, it was all just like it's freezing the world and that's all going bad, but it was turning more almost too much into like a disaster movie in that regard rather than focusing on the entity that's causing it. And
Yeah.
then the entity shows up and the sequence isn't like too quick, but it was a little too
Kind of
contained.
rushed.
It
Yeah.
was a little too rushed. It was a little too contained because they're literally just in the bottom of the firehouse,
Yeah.
facing off with it, and that's the only part that overall that I'm like, I think we could have done that a little bit better.
Well,
Made it
I
a little
guess
bit
with
more
the
grand. You know what I mean?
yeah, because when you think about the fact that the first one, it's the big Stay Puffed marshmallow walking through the city, and then of course the second one, you've got the Statue of Liberty moving through the city. So I guess what I can see with it being like now the grandeur is kind of gone from it. And of course, shout out to the mini puffs that came back because they're
Yes.
so freaking cute.
Yeah, I feel like that was like a must. They're like, we're not going to explain why they're still here. We're just going to keep them around. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
it's like podcast says somehow they're still, even though we watched them disappear in the third one, he
Mhm.
somehow they come back and he brings them back from Arizona. So like,
yeah, like I said, they're just like, listen, we're gonna make some money off these things, and
they're so
we're
freaking
bringing them
cute.
back. I just think it's funny all the creative ways they keep coming up with to kill themselves
Yes.
with these things is pretty fantastic and ridiculous. But yeah, I would say don't don't listen to the general consensus of critics. Like, and I've heard a lot of other people that are like us that are just like everyday people that have seen it that thought it was really good. They had a lot of fun with it. It is a fun time at the movies type of thing. There's a lot of really interesting, like I said before, there's a lot of really interesting concepts with this movie. But yes, maybe I felt that certain things didn't reach their full potential necessarily, but there's a lot of really good ideas and a really cool things that they're trying with this movie and trying to expand the world of Ghostbusters. Like she said before, with all the science aspects of it and things of that nature, like they're doing a really cool job of trying to just keep building on this and not just rehash everything that came before. Yes, there's callbacks, but there should be callbacks, especially now that we're back in New York and everything like that. It's kind of a must. I don't know if we're gonna get another one of these movies. If we do, I think we're gonna probably at that point move past having the OGs show up. More or less, like maybe like a very, very small cameo or something like that with one or two of them. I think probably just um the guy that's running the company.
Ernie Smith's character.
Yeah, Ernie Smith's character. He would probably be the only one to continue on. That makes sense in my opinion.
Yeah.
Past this point, I would go see another one of these if they continue it.
For
They
sure.
just have to keep it fresh. They have to keep it interesting, and I think there's enough there that they laid the groundwork for that. There's a chance they could. You know what I think I'd rather see them do is a series. I think I'd rather see them do like even if it's a mini series like a one-off type of thing, but rather than maybe doing another movie, do like a 8 or 10 episode series on one of these streaming things, and that way we can get like different ghosts on each episode and also do these see more about these different science projects they're doing and stuff like
Yeah.
that
And
kinda,
then maybe keep following Ray a little bit in his thing if
yeah, I
they
mean,
do that.
anything's possible. You have more time with that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
I
I
could
think
see that working as
yeah,
a
I just
series
think
better.
because this was giving me kind of like the cartoon series vibe as far as like
Yeah.
everything that they were building on and creating even more of this world. So that's why I think not everything needs to be a series. I just think that they would maybe have a little bit more freedom to focus on all these different things if they
Yeah.
had more time to do it. So, but yeah, overall, I'd say check this out. It's one of those like fun in the theater watches. Ashlyn said she gave it an 8.5. I'd say I'm probably closer to like a 7 or a 7.5, but that is not to say that it is not good or worth your time. I definitely think it is. I just have a couple of gripes here and there that's just kind of like teeters it down as it goes along. But at the end of the day, this is another like one of those not like what I was saying with Bad Boys where you turn your brain off
No.
type of thing, but it's a fun popcorn blockbuster type of movie. It's why we go to the movies, to be entertained. So I think that'll do it for Ghostbusters. Our last topic of the day, and I guess I'll try to make this quick. It's been a long show. We're gonna talk X-Men '97. Now, we've seen the first 3 episodes of this new series. I think they're doing an amazing job. Now, I'm sure that this series has been talked about at nauseum with most of these things online, but I don't care. I I will be completely honest. I was never like the world's biggest X-Men fan when I was younger or anything like that. I do remember watching some of the original series a little bit, and Saturday morning cartoons, that kind of thing. But I'd say that I probably grew up more with the live action adaptations more than anything because I was just at a certain age when they came out. They were never my favorite thing. They were entertaining blockbuster movies, that sort of thing. I'd say I have a much bigger appreciation for them now as that I'm older, I can understand everything a lot more,
I
appreciate
remember
certain
like
concepts.
seeing them in the theaters and not 100% understanding what the hell was going on. And not
Hmm.
until we went back and rewatched them did I really grasp, especially watching them kind of in sequential order with the first class and things like
Hmm.
that, and kind of going back and forth between the timelines. And then watching the X-Men 92 animated show, did I fully understand what in the world was going on.
Should have
But
done that sooner.
it's okay. But yeah, before that, just I remember being in the theater being like, yeah, this is cool. I guess I don't know what the hell's happening with half of this, but this is a cool blockbuster flick. But obviously now it's much more appreciation, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. But as far as with all that said, they're doing, in my opinion, everything right with this series so
For
far.
sure.
We have both gone back and we've been rewatching the original series from the beginning. We've gotten through, I believe, 3 seasons out of the 5. We still have a little ways to go. Um, we don't know everything that happens in that time period, but we have a general idea of what's going on, especially with some of the stuff that has now come to light with these new episodes. But the great thing they're doing about the series is while it is a continuation of what came before, you're not beholden to have seen what came before. They obviously there's plenty of ways you can find out what happened. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there, things like that, to find out that sort of thing. But they do such a good job of you're jumping into this, but they have little things that are explaining what's happening, or you can just kind of like treat it like a comic book and you're jumping into a story. You know what I mean? And but as far as the characters, it's the character work that they're doing with this that I think is so amazing. I think
I
this
have to
is
say,
yeah. Go ahead.
like, as far as character work, like, I didn't think I was gonna like Magneto in this series as much as I
Mm,
have. Like, he has become one of my top picks as far as like his character development, just the
mm-hmm.
way the person that's playing him is playing him. And he's just so much more interesting. And I find myself like waiting to see what he's gonna do next and how he's gonna lead this team now that they're his X-Men and everything like that. And now that we hit the 3rd episode, you can see other than maybe like Gambit, everyone's kind of come to this acceptance of him leading the team. The animosity is way down as far as that is concerned. I don't know that we've built like 100% trust yet, but I think after episode 2, he kind of earned a lot of that trust with them and how he handled things in episode 2. And Gambit's thing is just because of the stuff that they're building up from the comics with Rogue and Magneto. So there's this weird love triangle that they keep hinting at. But we see Rogue go back to Gambit in episode 3, and she's still worried about him and still showing him that affection. So I'm not quite sure how deep her and Magneto's relationship is running, if it's sort of just like a pursual on Magneto's end of Rogue, or if she's reciprocating, or how much she's reciprocating. I think we're just going to have to keep watching how that love triangle plays out. But I think it's funny, that's the new love triangle, where before it was always such a massive like focus on, of course, the original Scott, Wolverine, Jean love triangle, and now this seems like this is where we're going to be focusing the love triangle on this series.
Yeah. Well, I think they had to step away from that a bit, if nothing else, from the get-go of the show, because we jump into where Jean Grey is pregnant. So like Wolverine really can't do anything with that. And like, of course, they're from the original series, they're married and everything like that, and time has passed, and now they have a kid on the way. So yeah, they kind of had to move away from that original love triangle and do something else. And from what I understand, this plays into some of the stuff from the comics, where Rogue and Magneto are together in whatever capacity it is, but clearly romantically. I'm sure we'll get more backstory on, what happened with them in the past or whatever as things progress with this series, because clearly they're setting this up for like shit's gonna hit the fan eventually with them. To kind of touch on now, we were on Toy Quest's Collectors Assemble this last week, and we talked a lot about X-Men on there. Be sure to check out our buddy Miguel's, and that's another reason why I said Miguel. Channel, Toy Quest 101, if you haven't already. We'll mention this. I think this is the best interpretation of Cyclops I've ever seen. I don't have a ton to go off from that, because of like the live action is one of the main ones. But as far as what I've seen, even compared to how he was in the original series, I think this version of Cyclops is the best. They're going to have now, in my opinion, they're going to have a hard time living up to this when a live action one comes back for the new like MCU version. They're going to have a bit of a tall order.
Well, I think what they're going to have to do is use this as the footprint for that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because every other version that we've had of him, not to down the one in 92, because I would say obviously that one was probably the second best, but that's just a more reserved Scott, like
it's a typical Boy Scout version.
Whereas in the live action, he was a Boy Scout and a little bitch. So
I'm glad you said it. I wanted to say that so bad. I hated him in the live action ones, and it has nothing to do with the actor. It's just their interpretation of his character. He was a huge dick. For like, just the worst. Anyway, and they never use him to his full ability.
Yeah. So this,
whereas in this, right from the gate, we're getting like the sickest like moves I've ever seen out of that character, or almost any X-Men character.
Yeah.
And like Miguel was freaking out about his entrance when they're dropping out of the sky and all that kind of stuff. Like, for those of you who don't, just go watch the newest episode of Collectors Assemble. He freaks out and he's like, "Whose idea was it? Give them a raise!" It's just he's losing his mind over how incredible that was. And of course, Storm's introduction at that point too.
I am genuinely enjoying Storm so much more in this series than 92, because 92, just every time she comes out, and it's not that I dislike the whole Mistress of the Elements, but it's just like every time it's the same thing being redone over and over every flipping
Yeah.
episode.
Arctic winds, cold. It's like it's just super
super
dramatic and
cheesy, and I
yeah.
just was not a fan of it. And it really was one of the hard reasons that I had such a hard time kind of connecting with
She's getting
92.
better dialogue this time around, is I think
For
what it
sure.
is. So when she in between those action sequences where she's saying certain things like that, she has better dialogue, and
Yeah.
she also has better dialogue even during her fight sequences and stuff like that, because she's talking to whoever she's fighting or whatever, and she's
Yeah.
not just talking about her powers, she's actually talking. And that's one
Yeah.
of the things I think that's making her a lot better this time around, is all of that. It's just the dialogue is better.
Yeah, her dialogue, her story is better. I do like that they're building off of her story from 92, and that now we're at a point where she isn't in fear of controlling her powers, because
Mm-hmm.
the main plot of her character in 92 is she's kind of in the same place Jean is, where she hasn't fully developed her control of her powers, and she's afraid of letting her powers loose because she's afraid of all the animosity that she still has inside towards humans because of her mistreatment, and she
Yeah.
hasn't processed her trauma and everything. We're getting a confident, strong, powerful version of Storm who is in control, has processed whatever she needs to with her emotions to be able to be the badass bitch that she is for this
Oh yeah, I
series.
love when they're in the courtroom with Magneto. Now, for those of you who don't know, we're gonna talk some spoilers. So, spoiler warning, you've been forewarned. But I love before we get too crazy into it, I love how when they're like trying to interject against her, she's basically like, shut the hell up, you're gonna listen to me and do what I say, because I'm gonna keep you alive and everything like that. Like, she's not
Mm-hmm.
afraid to get stern with these people and like give it back to them and everything like that. And they talk about, we were talking about when she first shows up, and the and how, and you talked about how she's like really coming into her own with her powers, and how even the Sentinels are like, this is an Omega level threat. She's an Omega level mutant, and because she is one of the most powerful mutants in the world, and she's up there with Jean Grey and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She might not necessarily be as powerful as Jean Grey because of like the Phoenix powers or whatever, assuming she still has them, but she is up there, like arguably right up there with Jean Grey. And I think I just love that she's finally getting the respect she deserves.
Yeah.
And the speech that Magneto gives in that scene,
Oh,
talking, whoo, man, that's gonna go down in history as one of the best like moments in superhero TV movies. Otherwise, like in my opinion, that is something that needs to be in a history book, because hello, Crooked, your
I
phone
said,
hates you.
I know, and I don't know how to make it not do that.
But it is such an incredible speech. I actually ended up like rewatching the episodes, and that moment came on, and I was just like so focused in for that part in particular with his
It just
speech and the way
commands
he's talking.
your attention.
And then not just the initial part, but the later on part when he's got the whole like UN thing floating above the earth, and he's talking to
Yeah.
them again. He's like, I could squash you with my boot if I wanted to, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to be better for my friend who's no longer with us, essentially. And
Yeah.
man, you're right about the Magneto thing. What they're doing with this character is incredible. Like, I really, he was one of the biggest like upsides to all the live action ones, whether it be the original ones or the first class versions. Magneto was always a huge selling point for me for those movies, because the way that they portrayed that character and the backstory that obviously comes from the comics, but that they really talked about and laid into, was always so good. But I just love this interpretation as well, and I hope that continues as things move along. And then again, with the whole spoiler thing, at the end of the second episode, um, in order to save Magneto, Storm takes a bullet for him, literally, and we find out that it's essentially like the cure. that she's been shot with like a cure that has taken away her powers. And that's a huge, like, what the hell? Everyone was freaking out about that. Like, you
Yeah.
better not take her away from us. It's just the beginning of this series. And I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, no, I definitely
as far
think
as
she's going to get her powers back. So,
and it's jumping ahead a little bit, but we at the end of the third episode we get a little bit of confirmation with that, as far as she's talking to someone who thinks they can help her get her powers back. But is there anything else from the first two episodes that you feel that we still need to touch on before we jump to the third?
not that I can think of.
I mean, other than the fact that the very end of
The very end of second episode
is
yeah.
the cliffhanger. What a cliffhanger to start things off.
Oh my god! I was like,
that's why I'm kind of glad.
Wait a week.
I'm kind of glad we're getting to do this after the third episode, because this is kind of like almost the first three episodes is almost like its own story. I feel like
arc, yeah,
like its own arc, and we're kind of like now we've reached the end of this particular arc. But at the end of the second episode, we have a second Jean Grey shows up at the mansion, and everyone's like, "What the hell?" You know. So jump to the third episode, picks up right where it leaves off. We've got a second Jean Grey that shows up. Nobody knows what the hell's happening, but we find out pretty much right away, thanks to Beast and his intelligence, with all his science stuff, that not only is this the original Jean that's apparently been gone for who knows how long, but that the Jean that just had a baby is actually a clone. Now, a lot of people pretty much knew that this was happening. We didn't know which one was going to be which. It does make sense for the drama aspect of it to make it to where the one that had the kid was the clone, as opposed to the one showing up to the mansion out of nowhere being a clone. That would not have the same emotional component to it as this version that they created. And man, I tell you what, like, we talked about this a little bit on like Toy Quest and everything like that, but the animation with the show is just keeps getting better.
Yeah, I think
with
it
what
was
they're doing.
really good this episode. Just
Woo!
Showing, I really liked them before they even have her turn into
the Goblin Queen.
That the emotionality and like the mental breakage of her questioning, no, I'm the real Jean Grey. I have memories. She doesn't, because she can psychically connect with Jean. And just that whole imposter syndrome and that mental breakage that she's going through that leads to her becoming Goblin Queen. That whole sequence was just really good. And then the animation of her changing into the Goblin Queen, some of the best animation I've seen in a long time.
It was gorgeous.
It was beautiful.
The representation, like, and their representation or their interpretation, however you want to put it, of the Goblin Queen, I think looks fantastic.
Yeah, it reminded me of like some of the really good like artist covers for some of the comics that I've seen. Like some David Nakayama covers and things like that I've seen. And
it was very true to the character. Like, they didn't tone it down. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we're both big comics people and things like that. We know sometimes these characters get a bit over-sexualized, particularly with comic covers. So obviously they couldn't do that, but they also didn't tone it down either.
No.
Like, she looked like herself. She looked like her character from the comics. Like with the corset piece and like the really high up boots or whatever they are, essentially, and
the high cut bodysuit,
high cut bodysuit and everything like that. And I'm not trying to focus in on like I said, whether you want to say the sexualization or like the body that they're doing, but I'm just saying it was just so true to the character, and I really appreciated that they weren't afraid that they showed some things in this episode that I was kind of shocked about. Like, if you want to say that was one of them, sure. But they, for a kid's show, it's never been a kid's show. But a kid's show, they show like the baby again and how like the umbilical cord's attached. Yeah. Again, that's just health, but they freaking showed it. And they show the baby.
It's okay. It'll get banned in Alabama. It's fine.
Right. And the baby, like, kind of in the womb when they're going through the mental stuff between her and Jean and stuff like the stuff that I was just kind of like, I'm sure they keep surprising me with stuff that they're not afraid to address. And that's one of the things that I think I forgot to mention with like the first two episodes is and we talked about this again on Toy Quest. There's so many things that are still so poignant with this series that unfortunately were from 30 years ago or further back. But I love that they're not shying away from it.
Yeah.
So whether you're talking about the political applications, if you're talking about representation, if you're talking about um, just not dumbing things down or not shying away from anything.
Yeah.
This series is doing such a good job of not doing any of that and just sticking to what the story they want to tell and the way they want to tell it. And I really appreciate it. It has a voice, it has a tone they're setting, and they're sticking to it. And whether it's it doesn't matter that it's owned by Disney or run by Disney, they're doing it, I think, the best way they know how, and the best one of the best ways I think they could do.
For sure.
So I just really appreciate that. Like we were saying, that like her transformation was gorgeous looking. And then when she's fighting with the X-Men at like Sinister's mansion, looked awesome with the animation with that. And then of course the whole sequence we were saying as far as when she's fighting against Jean Grey mentally, that was a really cool sequence.
That was.
And her breaking the bond with Sinister and all that kind of stuff. And then you move forward a little bit. They decide, everything happens with the baby, which some of y'all may know. If you don't know, turns into Cable. They have to send him in the future to try and hopefully find a cure for what Sinister's done to him. And Madeline, now calls herself Madeline, the Goblin Queen, who now is Madeline, decides that she needs to go off on her own and essentially find herself. Like she needs to figure out who she is in this whole, world and everything like that. So I'm sure she'll show back up. I don't know when, probably later on in the series, I would hope. I think she's a really interesting character. Obviously, there's a huge fallout that has to be addressed between what happened between her and Scott and having a baby.
Yeah.
So like it's not Scott's fault, but it's still something that it's gonna
more of like
cause
a
a fray.
challenge.
Yeah, it's a fray in the relationship between him and Jean that they're gonna have to deal with. They're gonna have to process, and there's gonna be some issues. There's gonna be some back and forth. There's gonna be some like trust, that has to be redeveloped and things like that. But
well, I mean,
you
it's trust in a sense of she's gonna be like, "How did you not know it wasn't me?"
Right.
type of
Well, that's
thing.
what I mean. Yeah.
It's not like an infidelity thing per se. It's more a like their connection and how deeply they were connected and trying to get back to that. So that's where I think it's gonna go from there. But I honestly, this was my favorite episode so far. I think just overall, there's things that I really enjoyed about the second episode that I really liked, but this has been my favorite, I think, overall.
It just keeps getting better, honestly.
It really does. And I do hope we see Madeline again, because I'm not sure how her character plays out as far as in the comics. I don't know if she was ever in 92. As of now, we haven't seen her in 92. We still have, like you said, I think 2 seasons left. But as far as like her character and where she goes from here, like she has a really cool power and everything. I've always felt like her name is super weird, but I guess it's just because of the fact
Goblin
that like,
Queen.
Mr. Sinister created her, and he's got the whole like vampire-ish type esque stuff.
It's an odd name, and that's why like I don't know if she's ever really going to go by that again. In the series going forward, I think she would just go by Madeline. It was Madeline Price, wasn't it?
I think so.
Something like that. Yeah, I think she'll just go by that, kind of like how Jean just goes by Jean.
Yeah.
And things like that going forward. I think they've pretty much like more or less, unless something happens with her and Sinister again, she's kind of broken that bond, hopefully.
Yeah.
And gets to move on with her life. But I mean, I'm super looking forward to the rest of the series. I really wish we didn't have to wait week to week for it. I would love to see how things continue. Is there anything that you're hoping to see in particular, or any characters you maybe want like a little bit more as things progress?
Well, I'm excited to see where Storm's character is going to go from here. I'm really interested to see where the cure is going to come into effect as far as like hopefully this guy showing up trying to get her back what she lost. So I'm very interested to see where her journey is going to take her. Of course, I could always use more Rogue and Gambit trying to just figure out their relationship, as well as with like what's going on with Magneto in the mix. So honestly, all of the storylines are really great, and I'm super excited to see where they go. I think they're setting up some really good dialogue and stories and everything. My thought process really is I with how bold they've been with this series and how good it is, I just hope with the fact that we've lost the creator of the series that we don't lose that what we have, and that whoever they bring in to replace him for, I think it'll be season 3 at that point, we don't lose it. Like that it wasn't just one guy making it what it is as far as the direction of the story and everything, that hopefully.
Well, I would hope that it has more to do with the writers. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that he was, steering the boat, if you will.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, unless he was like really hands-on in the writing aspect of it,
Yeah.
it comes down to the writers, in my opinion. And that's where I think things are going to really lie is, if they continue on, if they're the ones that have been like, steering things more in the story aspect and character development and all that kind of stuff. If that's where it comes from, then I think we're fine.
Yeah.
If it's not, then things are gonna have to really try to keep it where it's going. So I don't know. I'm really excited to see where all this goes. Do you think when Storm returns, do you think that's when we're finally going to get the black suit?
That's what I want more than anything. I want black suit Storm. So hopefully.
You prefer that over the white suit?
I do.
Fair enough. I'm with you. I think the black suit looks great. I don't know what it is. I think with the Mohawk in particular, I think I actually like the white suit more. But in this animation, not so much the 92 version. The way the suit looks now in this 97 version, I've really liked the way it looked prior when I was going off of like what 92 looked like. Yeah, black suit all day. Right now, I'm really liking the white one, but I would totally get them changing it to the black suit when she returns, kind of like the whole like Phoenix situation.
Yeah.
Just hopefully it's not. There's a chance of them kind of doing a rehash of that with Storm, where like she gets her powers back, but maybe she loses control. You know what I mean? And we had a little bit of that in the original series, like as we've seen, but a lot of people that are watching this didn't necessarily watch that, so they wouldn't know that, and they didn't necessarily get to see the Phoenix saga play out the way that we did and everything like that. So it could be this version's Phoenix saga in a sense.
Gotcha.
But with Storm, I don't know if I want to see that or not. I'd rather her just be able to come back and be part of the team. Type of thing. Because that's what I'm like. That's what I'm worried about with the whole black suit thing. Is like every time it's like, oh, now they have a dark suit, so now they're evil. It's like, it's too on the nose for me.
No,
so,
I gotcha.
But this has been a very long episode of Retroactive, but a very good episode. We had a lot of ground to cover, and I think we did about as good as we possibly could. Before we sign off, though, of course, we're going to talk about our socials and all that kind of stuff. So, Ashlyn, let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me at bookbrat90 on Instagram, TikTok. I'm going to be we finally finished our library, so I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of that. So that'll be hopefully up next week. So stay tuned for that. I'm super excited about it. Andrew's excited to not have the house under so much construction anymore. So it's been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. And of course, you can find me at andrewislosing on pretty much all social media. Of course, be sure to like and subscribe on this channel, Retroactive POD. You can also find us on TikTok as well for little clips, Instagram as well. But of course, the main show is going to be right here on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all the content that we post here. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.